Chinango iria ngorada.
I haven't got that many good memories of Sister Kate's. It was very cold, really, really cold. And we had to sleep out in the veranda. That's one of the worst things out, sleeping on the veranda and being freezing cold. We used to jump into bed with each other to try and keep each other warm. But we always got into trouble. I just used to sit on one of these trees, this big pine tree. I used to climb up there. And I used to look over the hills, and that tree used to be swaying, you know. And I'd think, I'm going to go home one day. And that's all I used to think about. I'm going to leave and I'll never come back. Well, I got taken away from Whitnum. I was born on Mulgadown Station. And when they rounded up all the children to take away, then they took us into Roban, and then my brother was taken to Moore River, and someone else was taken here and someone else was taken, and the rest of us was for Sister Kate's. I don't remember coming to Sister Kate's at all. I was pretty traumatised, I think. None of them could do anything. They just picked the two of us up and off. That's it. End of story. They take you away from your land, your family, your language, your culture. It's really genocide. That's what it is. It's genocide when people do that.
They split up my mother and her brother. Why would you do that? Why would you take two kids away and then purposely split them apart? How could that possibly be for anybody's good? How was hitting people for speaking in their own language ever going to, what was actually going on there?
You formed attachments in the strangest ways here, because we all had verandas on the house and we slept outside. And most of the kids wet the bed. So if you wet the bed, you just stripped your pyjamas off and got into the next one, hoping it was dry. So you had bonds with the kids because you'd walk around arm in arm, and it was almost hanging on to something. Sister Kate's had a great habit of making you feel ashamed, you know. And I used to see families coming down here and they used to get hunted out with a stick, and all they wanted to do was see their kids. And a lot of them had alcohol in them, but why wouldn't they? That's the only way they could get enough courage to come down here. And I used to sit there and watch it. Watch that old girl with a stick hunting them out, you know. And I used to want my family to come down, but I didn't realise they didn't even know where I was. Mum never ever knew where I'd been taken to.
This place was known as the home for lighter skinned children, and this was a favourite for farming assistants and housekeepers and that sort of thing for farms and stations.
We all had to go out and be on work on a farm. We were just labourers, you know, we were just somebody's labourer. And the man took me out. He said, oh, we're tailing these lambs, you want to come for a drive? So I went for a drive. And as I'm standing there watching all the tails go in, the smell from the tails and the fire, it all came back to me. This used to be a sheep station, and then they used to tail the sheep, throw them in the fire, and we used to eat it. We used to eat it, and that memory came back, and that's one of the biggest memories of fire, Aboriginal people, windmills, sheep pens. That came back flashing just like that.
When you were 13?
Yeah, when I was 13, when I first started to ask questions at Sister Kate's where was I taken away from? They'd say no. I said, I'm going to find my family. I'm going to find them. Oh no, you got no family. I said, I'm going to find them. I don't care how long it takes me, I'm going to find them.
Her mother used to get the papers the Western Australian paper. Used to collect the paper, and used to say, one day in this front paper in the Western Australia, my daughter will be here. And this coming from an old lady that born out in the bush, can't read and write, but just know the image of the feeling, of her kid.
When I married my husband, and we went to Whitnum, and he was a very keen photographer, and he'd be up on top of the hills taking photographs, and I'd have Michelle in the pram pulling her along this riverbed, and that's when I found the wild cucumber, Nyarran we call it, and that's when I opened it and I said, I've been here before. And that same smell, I'd had flashbacks on the station homestead, and we were only, 30, 40 k's out of the homestead, and we'd never been there. Roger and I'd never been there, we didn't know that I was born there even, until I came back to Sister Kate's and insisted on knowing. And they reluctantly told me, you were born in Whitnum on Mulgadown Station.
And one day she ended up finding the paper and finding the newspaper, Western Australia, and said, see, this is my daughter here. This is my daughter here. Taken away from out in the scrub, and to be in the front page and being a model, I might be the first Indigenous model it used to be.
I got all my stuff from the Native Welfare Department long before they blocked a lot of stuff out. So there's a lot of stuff there that I shouldn't even know about. And I said, but I have, and they said, oh, you shouldn't have known about that. I said, I have a right to know it. They said, oh, it's painful. I said, whose pain is it? It's my pain, and you can't tell me what sort of pain I'm allowed to have. It's not about protection anymore,
And she kept that newspaper, and later on in the years, she'll come back. She's saying she'll come back to me. And sure enough, he came back.
In Whitnum, there's only one store, and you had to queue up. And there was one butcher and one baker. And you'd go wait in that shop, and then you'd go in that shop, and then you'd go in that shop. And then this bloke comes up to me and he says, you're not a white fella, you're a black fella like us.
I said, oh, you're Bigali. My name's not Bigali. My name's Sue. No, your name's not Sue, your name is Bigali.
And I didn't know who he was. I didn't have a clue who he was. Just a cheeky black fella, I thought, because he was very cheeky. And I said to Roger, I'm going to find out who that bloke is. So I go up to these two blokes, they're sitting down. I walked up and I said, excuse me, do you know me? How bloody stupid can you be, And they say, yeah, you're our sister.
Mum's had her own trauma and as part of that reunification, but the family have had to deal with a lot as well. I mean, they dealt with a lot of anguish and pain of her not being there and then having to come back through that. And what happened to you? Where did you go?
I said, do you know my mother? And they said, yeah. I said, well, where is she? Oh, she's bogged. She's coming in from the station. She's bogged, she's coming in. She comes in every Saturday to see you. I said, do you know where I live? And they said, yeah, you were in that house over here and now you shifted up there. They knew the house, everything. They had been watching us every Saturday, and that's when all the shops were full of people, And when I said to him, well, why doesn't Mum talk to me? They said, oh, we've been told by the Nyambli, and I didn't know what Nyambli meant, that's the boss. We're not allowed to talk to you. And I got angry. And it's the first time, I never used to swear before, and I swore, I thought, who the fuck has got the right to do this? Take away my baby. I would kill anyone who went to take my baby away. I would kill him. I looked down at Michelle and I thought, that's it. And that's the first time I'd ever been angry.
It's a story to how you can come back and fill someone's feel of crying inside. A woman's got some part of her taken away, and that part coming back to fill that place again, filling it up again and making it back into one bullare, one heart again, instead of having that piece taken away.
When they come to visit me, Guinness says, "This is your mum and this is your dad," and they shook hands with me like a stranger. And then Mum started to speak to me in language, and then when I told her I couldn't speak language anymore, that's when she bust out crying. She cried and cried and cried. It was just, and then they came into the house, and it was like I couldn't say anything to them. I didn't know what to say to them. And we're just looking at each other. Then Mum got up and went into my kitchen, and I'd had a big pile of dishes on the sink. And I said, "Where's Mum?" And they said, "She's in there." And she was in there doing my dishes. I said, "Mum, you don't have to do my dishes. You come out here with us." But she was so upset. Poor old girl. Poor old girl. I was going to make sure that my kids knew who their family were, where they'd come from, and I was going to let them grow up and be proud of who they are. Be Aboriginal. Be proud. That's what I was going to do.
So many people weren't able to reconnect with their families, but it's been a very painful, mixed with joy for Mum. So as much as it's been happy to find a family, it's also very traumatic.
Everybody started to know her, getting where she come from and all this sort of thing, and how he connected into this people.
The few people who found their families or their families found them, they're what you'd call whole people again.
So, she's one of our respective elders now in the community, So she's not nobody. She's a part of this, our family. This is a part of us.